Mario Kart Wii, one of the biggest Mario Kart games to date. It features 32 tracks, all with varying ranges of quality, so I thought we'd go ahead and rank them all. This list is based off how interesting the track is in terms of visuals and designs, and with that said, let's get her ranked. 32. Snes Mario Circuit 3. This is about as basic as a track can get. Coming from Super Mario Kart, it looks essentially the same but more 3D-ified. There's plenty of sharp turns to make, which add a good dose of challenge, but there isn't much to get excited about. There is one portion around the end where you can take a shortcut with a mushroom, but that's nothing too crazy. It's not a bad track by any means, just really underwhelming. 31. Luigi's Circuit. This should have came out when the year of Luigi was a thing. If you remember that, then you've earned yourself a veteran's discount. Anyway, this is another simple track which isn't all that challenging. Again, it's not bad, but it's only slightly more exciting than the track before this. You got speed boosts at the end, which is cool I guess, and there's a lot of Luigi memorabilia all over the place. It serves its purpose as a beginner track, but nothing more. 30. Ds Yoshi Falls. If you like going in loops, then Yoshi Falls is for you. Well, it's not just that. The sides are slanted, and you can even drive across the waterfall if you really wanted to. There's also a lot of speed boost and a bridge segment that you can trick off of. Visually, it looks great. I love the idea of driving in a luscious valley type of place, but again, it's just a glorified loop. 29. N64 Mario Circuit. I don't know what it is, but the grass's greens look really nice on the eyes, and the track is a lot of fun too. You drive around this hill type of area, then you'll go down and can take a ramp through the grass if you want to, and the end has this giant pipe that you can slightly drive on and trick off the edge. For a basic Mario Circuit track, it holds up surprisingly well for what it's going for. 28. DS Desert Hills. This is one of the most deserty feeling Mario Kart tracks out there. You look around and see hardly any landscape besides a few signs and sandcastles. You're mostly just plowing through varying mounds of sand or dirt. I do like the fire snakes that bounce around from time to time. It further signifies that we're in the middle of nowhere on a hot, dry day. The ending is fun too, as it requires a degree of skill to get around the sharp turns efficiently. 27. Snes Ghost Valley 2. If you're here for some spooks, you've come to the wrong place. Ghost Valley 2 is one of those satisfyingly hard tracks. There's hard corners everywhere, forcing you to stay on your toes. There's a lot of holes in the walls too, and plenty of boos stalking us all in the sky. But this is also a remake of a Super Mario Kart track, and while it's enjoyable, it's very flat and gets old quickly. I just wish it did a bit more to spark more interest, since everything looks and feels samey. 26. Moo Moo Meadows. This one has always been a fan favorite for plenty, and I can see why. There's something really peaceful about driving through farmland and having to avoid the cows and monty moles. It's got a very natural feel to it, and the course design works in its favor since the ground is uneven across the entirety of the track. And it even goes a step further and adds a few jump ramps for a bit of variety, which is much appreciated. While the landscape is great, it doesn't necessarily make for a fantastic driving experience, but more or less just a good one. 25. Mario Circuit. And now to the Wii's version of Mario Circuit. It's extremely lively and bursting with finesse in the background, with fully detailed buildings and gorgeous trees. Like seriously, these look really good. And it's not just pretty visuals, the track is pretty solid too, with a chain chomp around the middle trying to stop your path. And around the end, you got a bunch of Goombas that are just passively waddling around. They've actually got a mushroom in them if you hit one with a shell. This circuit manages to feel like home and a forest at the same time. It's a decent ride. 24. Daisy's Circuit. You know, it's kind of cool that Daisy of all characters gets a designated track. I can dig it. It's got this interesting festival vibe, like you're in some small town celebrating a random day that nobody else in the world celebrates. The road is a lot of fun to drive through too. You got a cool shortcut through this house, weaving paths, and you can even drive on the sidewalk at the end if you want. But most importantly, there's statues of Daisy and Luigi dancing. That's just adorable. 23. Gamecube Peach Beach. This is one of the few places I would actually want to visit in real life. Peach Beach perfectly emulates the beach experience while mashing it with Mario Kart goodness. The beginning takes you across a long wind of sand with an alternate path that lets you skip some of it but also risk water slowing you down. And really that's all there is to it besides a small chunk of road at the beginning and end. Well, and there's the cataquacks that completely ruin your day if you run into them, but in most circumstances they aren't that hard to avoid. 22. N64 Sherbet Land. You know you got a good track when I don't complain about ice physics, because they don't really exist in this remake. Sherbet Land at its core is super simple. You're driving on top of some glaciers and have to avoid penguins along the way. There's of course a cave near the end that has a narrow field of view and more penguins to avoid, but that's really it for variety. Regardless of its simplicity, something about Sherbet Land is genuinely great. It has some impressive immersion while working with so little, and again, the ice is fun to drive over. 21. Gba Bowser Castle 3. Poor name choice aside, this is one of the brighter Bowser Castle tracks. Like, seriously, it doesn't have dark brown lighting or textures, it's got a blue tone with lightning that strikes in the back. But it still feels like a Gba track as it's rather flat and simplistic. With that said, there are some fun elements thrown in, like the thwomps that crash onto the stage, that hallway where you boost off several pads at a time, and there's floor replaced with grates so you can see boiling lava right underneath you. For an older track, this is somewhat impressive, so I gotta give it that. 20. Gamecube Mario Circuit. It kinda gives the same vibes as the N64 variant, but with more going on. The beginning shows off Peach's castle in all of its glory, then you make a turn with this big old chomp that makes you steer wide around. Then you dive into a tunnel and want to remain in the middle of the road to prevent getting bit by the plants. And the end has some Goombas and a really bumpy road that you can trick off. There's actually a lot that happens in this Mario Circuit, and frankly, it's more interesting than the Wii's despite it being older. 19. Gba Shy Guy Beach. For a Game Boy Advance remake, this is one heck of a beach track. There's not only a lot of sand, but a lot of water as well. The main gimmick is to jump around as much water as possible, since that can severely slow you down. And when later laps hit, freaking cannonballs from the Shy Guy ships start firing at you. And then you have all these crabs to worry about on top of that. It's actually surprising how much is going on. With how hectic Shy Guy Beach is, it's also gorgeous to look at. The background has a tropical landscape filled with rich colors and fun eye candy. 18. Dry Ruins. This is similar to Desert Hills, but with a lot more happening. Firstly, the dunes are way steeper and more complex, which makes the track a lot tougher. There's also loads of Egyptian decorations all over the place, like this awesome Yoshi Sphinx. And following, you dig into a pyramid with sand pouring into it. What's really cool about this track is that it changes a little bit after each lap. Like, pillars are falling on lap 2 and you can trick off them in lap 3, and the sand in the pyramid, well, it gets higher and higher as the laps go by. Changes like this make Dry Ruins feel alive and well, which is a great thing. 17. N64 DK's Jungle Parkway. The name does not lie. It's a parkway carved out through a jungle that DK supposedly owns. It's almost like a tourist attraction too, with the boats that float by as you go through. Jungle Parkway has a warm palette with a sunset and hundreds of lush trees. It's a pretty fun track too, with a big old jump near the beginning and a rocky cave to wrap things up. Although I do miss rocks getting hurled at you when you stepped into the grass like in the N64 version. That was a great touch that could have been included here too. 16. Mushroom Gorge. Mario is all about the mushrooms, so it's high time to get a track based completely off of them. The red shrooms can be tricked off, while the green ones you'll simply ride across. This creates a really fun dynamic in which the mushrooms give you a boost of speed, but also less control since you're in the air, and you have to learn how to balance that. This is especially noteworthy in the cave, since it's filled with nothing but these shrooms. You even got a split path to keep things more diverse. 15. N64 Bowser's Castle. I've always considered this one of the toughest Bowser Castle tracks, and the remake doesn't tone down much. There's several thwomps to avoid, and some of them literally chase you down to try to block your path. And all the corners are 90-degree turns, which adds to the difficulty. I've always found it odd to see that garden area near the beginning and the one after the stairs, because most of the time these castles are nothing but brick and stone. 14. Toad's Factory. That's right, Toad owns a factory, and this is official proof. I don't know what he makes, but the factory is so big that you can race on it. So many elements of a factory were brought here. We got this stamping part at the beginning, which can actually squish you. Then there's a lot of conveyor belts with boxes to avoid, and then there's some curved conveyor belts which you can use to your advantage to gain speed, and the end is basically a construction site with a few speed boosts thrown in. It's a clever track that meshes real life with the Mario Kart world very well. 13. Ds Delfino Square. Mario Sunshine is a pretty out there title in comparison to Mario's other romps, so the fact that a track based off Delfino Plaza exists at all is amazing. You drive through the plaza, and it's built to be pretty narrow, so it really feels like you're weaving in and out of the buildings. The end is pretty neat with this bridge that has a raising road and several speed boosts, and you'll never know how high or low the bridge is gonna be. I really wish we'd see more tracks like this. It brings back all that Sunshine nostalgia. 12. DS Peach Gardens. I never thought thought driving through a garden would be so much fun, but here we are now. You're mostly going around flower fields or hedges, but the layout is constantly changing, which keeps the race really fresh. And since this is a big garden, you gotta have some security, right? That's what the chain chomps are for, and as the main obstacle, they patrol the area and you have to avoid them. While driving through the flowers slow you down, it doesn't if you have a mushroom, which creates a really fun dynamic when playing this track. 11. Moonview Highway. For those that were fans of Toad's Turnpike back in the day, this is basically the 2.0 version. The cars and trucks are even more ridiculous. There's a larger variety of them, and are harder to avoid as they'll take sharp turns sometimes for no reason. The roads are really narrow and the turns go in deep, so you have to be extremely careful or risk hitting a car. The fact that the setting is at night too almost makes the track feel like some sort of chase. This idea is further indicated with all the speed boosts you can go over as well. 10. DK Summit. This one is simply a whirlwind the whole way through. Immediately, you'll take a sharp right turn and get launched to the very top of the mountain. Then there's several places to do half-pipe tricks or just snow bumps to trick off of. This summit manages to feel like a real mountain while also being something you'd see in the Olympics. And the ending is awesome. There's thick patches of snow with snowboarding shy guys, and you have to avoid all of them by tricking off the half-pipe. This is one of the few instances where we're encouraged to use these half-pipe ramps, and it doesn't feel forceful at all, which is surprising. 9. Gamecube Waluigi Stadium. This is one of the most beloved stadium tracks out there. You'll constantly be getting large amounts of air and taking quick turns through the dirt. The plant section now has half pipe ramps, which I wouldn't say are super useful, but their addition makes sense and is a nice touch. And you gotta love that giant TV you'll occasionally see which observes how you're playing, just like an actual stadium would do. There is so much charm in Waluigi Stadium. What's not to love? 8. Grumble Volcano. Despite all the lava tracks in the past, there's never really been one solely focused on a volcano until now. And man, is this a treat. We start by going into the side of a volcano and driving around a bunch of narrow rock debris. And the outside, well, it's basically just hell. You'll find loads of dead trees, other volcanoes shooting lava and fire, and you even got fire snakes hopping around near the end. I also love the giant question mark blocks that are attached to the volcanoes and rocks. Something about that is just really cool. The track design is pretty challenging, which you'd expect from a place like a volcano, and it is a thrilling ride. 7. Wario's Gold Mine. You want to talk about interesting locales? Wario's Gold Mine has you hooked up. You drive on train tracks and dig into mines with canisters of gold which can stun you. It's not just a super interesting place, but the track is a load of fun as well. There's a couple moments where the road dips really far down and almost feels like a roller coaster, and the shortcut in the mine where you dip to the left is pretty well hidden. 6. Gamecube Dk Mountain. And here's another infamous track. You begin by climbing up a bit of jungle, take this DK barrel cannon, and proceed to drive all the way back down. This is pretty similar to DK Summit, but the track is more dynamic in DK Mountain, which is why I'd give it the slight edge. The only weird thing is they added these jump ramps on a mountain when the mountain itself could have been used to trick, but that's hardly a hindrance at all. Not only do you barrel down this mountain, but it's extremely rickety with several boulders rolling with you. And near the end, the mountain starts to fall apart and you have to cross this sketchy bridge that constantly shakes. There's a good reason that people remember this course. 5. Koopa Cape. I don't really know what this track is, but it's nothing short of magical. We're in some sort of canyon and so much is happening. We have a few pretty big jumps, then we're rushing through water and somehow gain speed from it, and after that you dip underwater into this tube and have to avoid the electricity or you're gonna get shrunk, and somehow all of this works really well. It's a really weird track, but that's what makes it so great. 4. Maple Treeway. Fall is one of my favorite seasons, and an aspect of that is of course the leaves changing colors, and Maple Treeway takes that spirit and turns it into an entire track. Instead of racing on a road, we're on enormous tree trunks and roots, which in itself is a brilliant concept. But there's more. There's leaf piles you can drive through that sometimes have items, you've got this cool jump that launches you through a pile of leaves, and even the wigglers are hanging out. 3. Coconut Mall. Here's another level that throws you into a location that's slowly going away because of online monopolies like Amazon existing. The mall. Everything you'd expect is here. The escalators, a shortcut through a store, water fountains, and crazy drivers that don't know how to park. All the basic elements from a mall are incorporated in this track perfectly, and it manages to be a blast with multiple paths to take as well. 2. Bowser's Castle. By far the best Bowser's Castle Nintendo has ever made. It defines what these types of levels should be. A perplexing amount of turns and corners? Check. Drive into Bowser's mouth at the beginning? Check. A ridiculous half-pipe section with a Bowser statue shooting fireballs down the middle? Check. Random lava geysers that burst out of the ground? Check. Mate. This track is a banger and a half. and one Rainbow Road. I mean, what else could it be? Nintendo tends to go overboard when making new Rainbow Roads, and this one is no exception. You start with this deep dive in the road, followed by loads of tight turns and 2 big holes to avoid. After that is more insane turns and some zany launchers, and all this is coupled with some fantastic music and great level design. It's by far the hardest track in the game, and that's how it should be as the big finale. And there you have it, ranking every Mario Kart Wii track. It was pretty fun to go back to this game and try to piece together what makes these tracks so memorable and so great. But with all that said, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Until next time.